The idea of sheetboxing isn't just for boxing. It can actually be used for any kind of martial art that focuses on striking. Let's think about how we could use sheetboxing for martial arts that also include kicking.
As we're thinking about broadening what sheetboxing can cover, it's really important to look at the rules we use when we were putting together its symbols and stuff. Rule 1. If you see a note right on the line, that means a lead punch, like a left-hand punch if you're orthodox. And if the note's between the lines, it's talking about a rear punch, which would be your right hand if you're orthodox. Rule 2. Where a note is on the staff shows the way the punch goes. So, it helps you tell the difference between a straight punch, a hook, and an uppercut. Rule 3. In this notation system, the shape of the head of the note tells you where the punch is aimed at, like which part of the body it's supposed to hit. The way we write things down in sheetboxing is based on these 3 rules. Now, we're going to bring in some new rules so we can add kicking techniques to this system too. Rule 4. If you see a stem pointing up, that's showing a strike with the hand. But if the stem is pointing down, that means it's a strike with the foot. Expanding on Rule 2, we're going to put the notes for kicks in the bottom half of the staff. Remember how we arranged punches from top to bottom? It was hook, straight, uppercut. We're going to use a similar idea for kicks. So, we've got this hook trajectory for kicks coming in from the side, a straight trajectory for kicks coming straight at you from the front, and an upper trajectory for kicks coming up from below. We'll use these ideas to sort out where the kick notes go. Also, talking about Rule 3, when it comes to kicking, we need to show not just high and middle kicks, but low kicks as well in our notation. So, we're going to bring in a new symbol that points out when a kick is aimed at the lower part of the body. Now, we're going to take a look at how we might use sheetboxing for karate. First up, let's sort out the different kinds of kicks based on how they move. We've defined the trajectories like this. Hook trajectory. This is when the kick comes in from the side. Straight trajectory. This is a kick that comes straight at you from the front. Upper trajectory. This kind of kick comes up from below. For the hook trajectory, we've got a few different kinds of kicks. Outer roundhouse kick. The outer roundhouse kick is kind of like the standard kick. So in our notation, we show it with a note that doesn't need any extra symbols. Inner roundhouse kick. For the inner roundhouse kick, it hits from a path that's the opposite of the outer roundhouse kick. In math, they use a bar to show something that's complementary, like the opposite of something else. So, we put a bar over the note to mean opposite, and that's how we represent the inner roundhouse kick. Hook kick. The hook kick is a move you do with the leg that's closer to your opponent. It's kind of like the side kick and the side kick up, which will be shown later. Because it's similar to those, I've decided to show the hook kick by putting a dot on top of the note. Back spinning kick. Lastly, the back spinning kick is a move you do with the foot that's farther away from your opponent. To show it's different from the hook kick, we represent it by putting a circle above the note. There are 2 types of kicks that fall under the straight trajectory. Front kick. The front kick is like the most basic move among the kicks that go in a straight line towards the target. So, we show it just using a note without any extra symbols. Side kick. Since the side kick is done with the foot that's closer to the opponent, we mark it by adding a dot to the note. This way, it looks kind of like the symbols for the hook kick and the side kick up, showing that they're all kind of similar in how you do them. There are 2 kicks that fall under the upper trajectory. Kick up. The kick up is a move you do with the foot that's farther from your opponent. So, we show this by adding a circle above the note, which makes it look like the symbol for the back spinning kick, highlighting the similarity in how these kicks are performed. Side kick up. Thinking about the side kick up, which you only do with the foot that's closer to your opponent, we're going to represent it by adding a dot on the note. This keeps it looking similar to the symbols for the hook kick and the side kick. Because heel drops come down on the opponent from above, they don't really fit into any of the trajectories we talked about before. It kind of makes sense to put them above the hook trajectory on the sheet. Now, this might get mixed up with upper hand moves, but you can tell them apart by which way the stem is pointing. So, we can show the heel drop like this. Knee kicks. We can think of them as going in a straight trajectory. The thing about them is they use a joint in the middle of the leg, which isn't really like any of the kicks we talked about before. So, let's come up with a new way to show that. I'm thinking of putting a diagonal line on the stem to represent using that middle leg joint. Elbow strikes, which you're not supposed to use in karate, actually work a lot like knee kicks in how you do them. In Muay Thai, you see elbow strikes coming from all kinds of directions, like from the side, from below, and especially from above. So, for elbow strikes that come down from above, we should put their symbol above the hooks, just like we do for heel drops. Down here, I've got a sheet boxing that shows a combo of a 1-2 followed by a left middle kick. This is a good example of how sheet boxing can now really show sequences that mix up both punches and kicks.
In boxing, the idea of distance is different from what it means in martial arts, where kicking is a big part. Like in boxing, a tonic distance is how far a straight punch can go if you step into it. But the same distance is also about how far you can reach with the kick. So it looks like we need to think again about what distance means for martial arts that use kicks. Even though breaking down distances into 4 or more categories might make things more accurate, it's not really helpful if you can't use that in your everyday training. So for the sake of keeping things simple and useful, it's better to just stick to classifying distances into 3 main categories.